So I just got 2, 14, 18, 25, 26, and 30.
And also 27.
27. 2, 14, 18, 25, 26, 27, and 30.
Yeah, so, Roberta, this is also where I said, oh, some of these questions seem very, very similar to me, so,
I don't know that
I'm,
I don't know that I went through the exercise of grouping them together, but yeah, there are some that.
well, right, so specifically, there are 3 of those which I wasn't sure we needed to ask all 3, because they sounded very similar, so to me, I said 2, 17, and 25, which are all in that group. They
Yeah.
all sounded the same, they all sounded like the same to me in some way. I'm not sure we need all 3, all of 2 and 17 and 25.
Oh, I don't have 17 in that group.
I'm sorry,
17 to
see,
the information.
Let me see,
She put it in
2,
information.
she put 17, okay. So how about 2 and 25, what do you think?
2 and 25 are her number 3.
Yeah.
You're asking if they're,
I'm asking,
if they're
why
repetitive.
don't we just do them one at a time, though, to your point, so we'll start with do you want to start with
2.
number 2?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, it's actually, I think 25 is like a superset of number 2.
Yeah.
And I also thought it was similar to 18. But
Yep, I agree. I made that note as well.
Well, 18 and 25 are the same, basically. One has bottlenecks,
Right.
one doesn't.
I agree.
So let's strike 25. I think 18 could just be the first question.
15?
I'm sorry, 18 could be, there's 3 parts of 18. I don't think, you definitely don't need the second part of 18, part B. I think 18 and 2 are now sufficiently different to keep both. But I think for 18, if we delete part B and keep both those parts,
So 18 would now be, have you encountered any specific organizational inefficiencies with how your board and department operate?
yeah.
And then what type of impact does this have on your board and its department?
And I think the first part of 2 can be deleted, and the second part of 2 could be added to the end of 18. That way you basically say, have you seen any problems? What's the impact on you, and how can we fix it?
Okay.
So, help me out for number 2, what were we taking out of number 2?
The first, 2A.
Removing 2A, okay. Okay,
And the second part becomes
yeah,
18C.
Yes.
right. Mhm.
So 25, well, we just dealt with 25.
Yeah, we struck
We
25.
struck
26. I'm not sure that goes into shortcomings. That might be in the other miscellaneous category, but I do
Yeah, maybe.
like that question in the sense it's a very open-ended question. I'm not sure if, so I drafted that question, and I think what I was thinking about is town administration going to particular boards and saying, can you do X, Y, or Z? But in rereading it, seems like also they could get complaints from citizens or.
Yeah. I think the reason I put it in 3 was I was thinking that 3 was shortcomings, so that was a part of shortcomings. But but not necessarily sure comes to the structure.
I think 26 is very similar to 3, so I think we can delete 26.
Well,
No,
you don't identify issues. What issues?
Long list of people that want to get in here.
You know, like what issues?
Or problems, I mean,
Just problems
Yeah.
related to effectiveness and efficiency.
Constraints. It's another.
So would you say just get rid of 26 and leave it with 2, or move 26 since it's so open-ended to other?
I think 26 is, we can get rid of it, but
But wait a second, but if you were asking how problems related to effectiveness and efficiency of town services brought to the attention of the board, is that what you were thinking? Town services is what the government's all about.
When I thought it was citizens telling the board there were issues, you know.
Which would be probably town services.
Hmm.
You know, like plowing the road, that's what government's all about.
well, it could be that, let's say someone had a problem with plowing the roads, they could call David Bond, or maybe everyone just complains to the selectmen probably. I'm sure you've been on the other end of calls from many people with complaints.
flame on Facebook.
Facebook, I stay away from Facebook, I don't
There
know.
you go.
I don't know, again, I'm trying to pare this down, I think we can get rid of 26, unless people think it really adds something significant.
I don't mind striking.
Okay.
27,
So we strike 26?
yes.
I think the first part is important. I think the rest of it goes on a little bit. And isn't necessary.
I definitely think the second part's not necessary. But we want to know if there are roadblocks to getting improvements done.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we don't need all 3 of those words, it's pretty much in the same word. What are the obstructions? Prevent delay, improvements.
Yeah. You wanna know what they are.
The last roadblock should be improvements.
Right, I agree.
I'd say take out bottlenecks or roadblocks, just leave obstructions.
Yeah, so what are the obstructions that prevent or delay improvements, period, or question? Yep.
Mm-hmm.
We struck out
You know,
the how or
struck-
such, right? we did.
Yeah, the second part B was stricken. I'm trying to keep notes here, too, we can
Yep.
compare notes later.
Yeah. I think we'll get it close to right.
We don't have to vote on this tonight, let's get through them all tonight if we can, and then get a clean
Having
version.
Another read.
Yeah, I think so,
A
too.
clean copy,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that'll be very helpful.
That was 30. What's next? Just times your board of fulfilling or overseeing operational and administrative tasks.
So, I was struck a little bit reading this. Why aren't we asking the inverse of that question? Why aren't we saying, does the time you spend performing and overseeing operational tasks help you meet your board's mission and duties. So, what, you know, it seemed,
There's an assumption being made that there's policy and, in the question, I think, long-term planning and policy is, my assumption is that the function of most of the boards, they have people in the administration to carry out their policy choices. So that was an assumption I think I made in drafting it the way I did, as opposed to the inverse, like you're saying. But if a board's main mission is to oversee operational administrative tasks, then, you know, this question doesn't help us. But my thought is that the boards are elected to create policy. That's just as a general proposition. But it's not necessarily the case. So, I mean, this is open-ended enough where it says main mission and duties that, and maybe you wanna say significantly delay your board's mission and duties and long-term, mission, comma, duties and long-term planning.
Either that, or you could turn it and say, just the, board performing the operational administrative tasks, et cetera, support the main mission and duties of your board.
Support or delay, yeah.
right,
Okay.
exactly, thank you, I'm looking for that balance of, is this helpful, or is it, you know, or whatever you have to helpful is.
So it would be support or hinder.
Support or
Yeah,
hinder.
hinder, that's a good
Perfect.
word.
Thank you, Mr. Thesaurus.
And how do people feel about adding long-term planning to the end?
Mission, duties, and long-term planning.
Yeah.
You'll notice there wasn't, we titled this section, what works well and what needs improvement, and not one of them asked them what works well, I don't think.
So, well, we should ask that, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's a more
that
direct way.
should be the
Yeah.
first question in that section
Mhm.
probably. I'm not gonna number that right now because that'll screw everything up in our numbering system.
Right.
Do we wanna follow up with the second question, what does not work well?
Yeah.
Or what could use improvement, I like that,
Yeah.
that sounds better.
Try and keep it as possible.
Well, excuse me, no, we put number 14 in this section. Number 14 is perfect.
You wanna skip over that one?
What is working, what is not.
But it is there, but I could have crossed it out because it seemed kind of simplistic, but,
I'm sorry, I captured question 14 as part of this section.
you're right, I gave you that number,
Okay.
but in my, whatever.
So are you saying that you like 14, are you like, what works, excuse me, let me start that over. Do you like what could use improvement better than 14, is that what you're saying? I'm not following
Well, what needs improvement is different than what's working.
you. Yes, but
But you
14
say-
says, what are the inefficiencies? So that sounds like to me, what could use improvement, it's the same question.
You say what is working and what needs improvement, or what isn't working well and needs improvement.
So the first part of part 3
Mm-hmm.
is going to be what works well, question mark. Is that where that's what we just talked about?
Yeah.
We'll add a number for that. And then the second question is going to be, is it going to be what could use improvement, or is it going to be what we have for 18 now? I think that's the question.
Okay, for 18.
18 says any specific inefficiencies. I mean, that to me is very similar to what could use improvement. Or
Yes.
actually, 18 identifies the problems,
Mm-hmm.
and
Not quite as broad.
maybe we put the last question in the whole list is what could use improvement. How's that?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Structurally.
Or do you have any suggestions for structural improvements?
no, this is all part of still part of section 3.
Mhm.
Yes.
So moving on to part 4, that's okay. Bernard, if you could provide us with your list, please.
1, 12, 13, 31, 32. I need a couple of little scribbles here that I don't quite understand.
Did I read
To know you're human.
it? Yeah, right.
1, 2,
Except for the second sentence? No, no.
no, well, maybe it'll come to me as we go
Okay.
through it.
Okay.
So it's 1, 12, 13, 31, 32.
What advantages and what disadvantages do you anticipate if town government were reorganized so more departments report directly to the town administrator? I think it's a great question. I'm not sure, I don't recall who wrote that one, but that's a
That was
good
one of my
question.
two.
That's pretty, that's pretty direct.
And it's
Try-
very
try-
direct.
Yeah.
Trying to be direct, why beat around
Well,
the
by
bush?
now, we've lulled them into a sense of
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
you be direct.
Hit them with an uppercut in the middle of the questioning to keep them awake. All right, so, I think that has to be asked. I think it's a good question. Just so we make sure, the numbers I just got from you, Roberta, were 1, 12, 13, 31, and 32?
Yes.
12. I think that's a good question too. I think that we should keep that question
Mhm.
just as it's written. 13. 13 is repetitive of 12, and just for the sake of paring this down, maybe we could say,
That's what my scribble says.
oh, okay,
113. The town administrator, yes, okay.
So are you suggesting combining 12 and 13?
I was
or-
thinking
or-
making 12, what changes the structure of town government, including changes to the role of the town administrator? Comma. So that says TA maybe then, instead of like
Yeah.
town administrator, is that what you think?
Yeah,
So we strike 13 and edit 12.
Yes.
Okay.
31. I think that's a good question. If for nothing else, that could point us in a direction to go look at some avenue that we're not considering.
Mhm.
So,
and I think what would be beneficial about that is maybe me as the water commissioner is familiar with another
That's right.
town's way they organize their water commissioners.
Yes, that's right.
Get
Yeah,
the
because
inside
I wish we
scoop.
were like X, Y, and Z.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Mm.
It took me a couple of weeks to understand the difference between those two.
Do we want to also ask, do they know how other local towns are organized?
I think that's part of our homework. I think, I mean, we have lists of how they do things, but they'll know better how those other towns operate internally. I mean, we can look at a structure of another town, like what
Yeah, I
they
mean,
have
that's
for
what I
roads.
wanna know, like, what do they know about that they might convey to us?
Isn't that what 31 says?
Yeah, I guess, but I think,
We can expand it somehow,
Yeah.
if you're thinking of a particular,
I don't know,
eh,
I just wanna I wanna see that, that they're proactive at looking how their peers do things.
should that say, are you aware of any operations or governmental structures of other communities that if adopted by Topsfield might be beneficial to Topsfield?
We didn't say that.
The
What's-
governmental structures is new. I don't think we does one of these questions, I guess question one does it. Doesn't actually ask the question about centralizing, because basically we're decentralized now.
Yes.
That's how we are, so do we wanna ask the question if you see any advantage or disadvantage of centralizing? That's, I guess, what one says, without using that word.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, there'd be other ways to help centralize that wouldn't put them under the town administrator.
That's right, the board of selectmen, we could do away with multiple boards and
Yeah,
have a CEO that oversees everything, so, report directly to,
you could have the three public works become one public work and report to the board of selectmen, who would be then take on the roles of the public, the various.
so I wanna say, then, go back to one, report directly to the board of selectmen or town administrator. Because the board of selectmen is still gonna be, well, not necessarily, I'm making an assumption, but, in my mind, if the board of selectmen is still the chief executive officer of the town, I don't know, we can consolidate boards into that one board.
Well, it could be more of the chief executive officer.
Okay. I know one town that is, they're the board of water and sewer, the board of selectmen is the board of water sewer commissioners, board of, road commissioners, you name it, that's the board. So, they do a lot, but they also have a handle on, and oversight on everything.
But you mentioned the word centralized, and I wondered if you wanted to add the word centralized. To your point, it can be inferred there. Do you want to underscore that? I'm just asking the question.
We're more centrally reorganized, so
That's
more
right.
departments, okay. You can add those in there.
We're more centrally organized. More centrally organized. Okay, thank you.
So, I'm just jumping around here, that was,
That was one, and then we were at
we-
31.
31, I think we finished?
And we added or government structures.
Right.
Mhm.
And then, so any other thoughts on 31? 32 and 33 are very similar.
Yeah, I had to read it too. The only difference is one says effectiveness, one says efficiency.
Yeah, let's combine those or get rid of one.
Yeah,
Mhm.
good idea.
So effectiveness and efficiency, and then
Mhm.
strike
Yeah, they're
33.
two different things, so we should combine them.
All right, that's a lot of questions. We did pare down some.
Is that everything? Oh, was there another
There weren't any other,
oh, you didn't
The-
capture it.
there wasn't anything that was specifically an other, but I think that's a nice open-ended question where you say to them, is there anything else you'd like to tell us? Is there anything else you'd like
Tell
us?
this committee.
Yeah, tell
Yeah.
this committee, yeah.
So,
yeah.
do we want to go through and see which questions we
Yeah, I think so. I was just,
did not make the cut?
did not make the cut.
Which is fine.
Yeah. So one made the cut, two made the cut in a different form,
Yep.
three made the cut, slightly edited. Four, I think, was combined with, yeah, I'm trying to think, with 15, I think. I think four is being deleted and now it's just 15, or
Yeah, I,
15 and 4 overlap some, so I think we're keeping 4. And 15 was revised to what do you view as the main mission of your board? And then 4 is, how would you rank them, I guess? I don't know, do we need 4? I don't think we need 4.
No, I don't actually,
No, because we
I
put in,
didn't
how
call
do
it
you
out.
prioritize your duties and responsibilities on 15? So, here we are, how would you prioritize your duties and responsibilities is 4. So we really sort of added 4 to 15, which is fine.
So what do you have for 15? What do we say for 15? And what do you view as the main mission of your board, and how do you prioritize your responsibilities and duties?
Duties and, yeah.
And then 4 comes out.
so I'm sorry, I missed that, so we added priorities to 15, I missed that one.
Yeah.
The mission of your board.
How would you prioritize,
Interesting, I wrote it down and crossed out.
how would you prioritize your duties and responsibilities?
We're gonna be able to revisit this, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a lot of editing work that you guys are doing.
A lot of deleting them, that's easy work.
Satisfying. Okay, so following on, I think we,
I don't think, we didn't address 6.
we cut
I'm sorry.
5,
We covered 5. We deleted 5.
we deleted 5, but we did not discuss 6
We did not
or
discuss
7.
7, no.
So,
So,
and we deleted 8, we deleted 9, or we didn't
I-
talk about 9.
so let's talk about 6 real quick. Do we need 6? Can we delete 6?
I think we got it.
I mean, that implies that, I think it probably depends if whether or not they have a board, a particular board has their own agent who can come and tell them what's going on.
I don't think we need that
I
particular,
don't think
that
so.
was one of the ones I didn't think we needed.
I agree.
And I agree too.
And then what's the
Se-
follow-up?
7 can come out.
Yeah,
8 already was deleted.
yeah.
How are decisions made? I mean, that's.
That's a big open-ended.
Yeah,
question.
is
It's
that,
not
is that
clear.
about whether or not they have formal votes? Who drafted the question? Was that
Oh, I think I
you
did.
did? So what were your thoughts about that?
Well, it's the basic for every board, and they make decisions. How do they make them? Do they discuss them? Are they just on the agenda?
Meaning, I mean, so when a board makes a decision, it should be discussed at an open meeting and voted upon. But are you asking whether or not
does it
an
come-
agent of the, an administrative person, you know, gives advice to a board and they vote based on that advice? Or
It would be nice to know. Certainly things come up before the Board of Selectmen that, that are just town items, that, let's have a stop sign on Windsor Lane. That came up, how did it come up? It was discussed, it was decided. Certainly the Finance Committee has to do the budget, but, what's
So,
the process? Perhaps what's the process for
take-
decision-making?
Taking the finance committee as an example, the chairman makes an agenda for each meeting, and then we have a discussion among the committee members, whoever's there at that particular meeting, and we either make a decision, positive or negative, or postpone it, or based on the information, look for more information. But it's like this board, it's a very collaborative process, it's been my experience. And it's also been my experience that there is not, speaking of the finance committee, we don't really have an agent who works with us to tell us, what the policy or gives us advice as to which way we might go. So that, that might be related to one of the questions, whether or not the board has a dedicated assistant to help them for 19. But I'm not sure that that's, I don't know what that adds.
I'm not sure, Libby, so are you saying like specifically, like, do they use Robert's rules or something?
Eldon,
No.
drive careful.
No,
I'll catch you next time. Thanks, John.
no, I'm just thinking that here we have the government bodies in our town, the main boards, et cetera, and they obviously have to come to decisions about the town, right? How do they do that?
Yeah, or.
But I guess
don't
I'm confused. Isn't it fair to suggest that every board is going to make decisions by discussion and vote? And what more are we looking for?
Yeah, I guess if we can't articulate the question, we need to get a little bit more specific.
No, I understand
It's
what
not a
you're all
criticism,
saying.
you know, it's just, I think that we need to, because we don't want them bemusing about it or being frustrated with the question, so. Is it consensus, are you asking, or is it?
Just a vote.
Yeah, a vote or consensus, do you vote on decisions? That's pretty specific.
Yeah, some boards might not take formal votes on
Do you
everything.
vote on?
Really?
You're supposed to.
Yeah.
They're supposed to, but, I mean, they probably do in the big things, but a lot of times it's sort of a informal consensus.
Okay.
Right, yeah, I agree, and some people get frustrated by that, you know, we didn't take a vote on this, we could really drive ourselves crazy
You laughing?
and take a vote on every question that we nixed or edited tonight, and then we'd be here.
No, we didn't do
midnight.
that tonight?
We didn't and we're not.
So I'm not sure, and I don't wanna say no, so how about this, do you wanna think about that one and maybe put a
Okay.
finer point on it?
Okay.
Well, we can talk about it next.
It could also, there was one of the questions that talked about
I know, I'm sorry. We're going along.
directives, I'm not sure, there was one other that talked about, you know, what information they get and how they get it. I guess, yeah, I sort of do wanna know how people make their decisions.
Yeah, I think that to do that, and you know, like, I think one way of saying, do you take a vote on, at every meeting on decisions? Or do you do it by consensus, or does the chair decide? In some places, the chair drives the bus.
Mhm.
But are you, I'm trying to help put a finer point on it too, like, are you talking specifically about certain directives to people who help with administrative tasks? Or, you know,
No.
are you, okay.
I'm talking about town decisions, or decisions that affect the services and finances of the town.
Well, so, all right, so the finances, the budget, that's a very set process, but, okay. Why don't you think about that one and see if we can put a finer point on that at our next meeting? And maybe combine 9 and 10 when you think about those two.
Who's doing the one roll-up of this?
I think I am probably with
Yeah.
John's
Then-
help,
then-
he's
Yeah,
got the notes.
I can definitely help you with this.
Yeah,
yeah.
But then leave a placeholder in, or for Libby's thing, you know.
Yep.
And decisions, and then put a few words like Robert's rules, or consensus, or chair decides, or I don't know.
Well, the chair can't decide, I mean, it has to be, I know you're
Well,
saying.
there's also, I'm also
I'm not
thinking
saying
of
the
like
chair should
long-term
decide.
planning, you know, that is, I think is important, not everyone thinks is important, and that's okay. But long-term planning, if you have a policy or something that says this is what we're doing in the next 5 years, that's going to affect your decision-making. I think that's what I'd like to know.
Well, generally, in my experience, decisions are made on a fiscal year basis. They're made from year to year, depending on what the circumstances are. And the structure of town government here and elsewhere lends itself to that. I mean, we can't bind, as a board, we can't bind future boards. You know, what we decide at one point is based on our perspective, or you know, it doesn't really apply to this board, this committee, but, you know, Board of Water Commissioners might take one view on a long-term plan, then the next elected board members may completely change that, so. long-term planning is needed, but, it's hard to put in place.
I understand that, but I think that perhaps a question, and I will think about it, is important to have people start thinking about it.
I
That's,
agree,
Yes.
especially with, you know, capital and money issues and, I agree. All right, so,
Yeah, we can say something like, do you think the long-term planning process for your commission or board is adequate?
if that's the focus that you're thinking of, so.
yeah,
So-
let me think about
Yeah,
it,
so,
but that's not, you know.
and I would make the same request for 10, try to put a
Mhm.
finer point on that.
That's fine.
Because it's also not decided. 12 we handled.
Yep.
Oh, right, I'm sorry, let me skip ahead.
We-
11
We, 11 we edited,
edited, the 12 we edited.
12 we maybe edited, 13 we struck.
Yep, 14,
14 we've kept, although there's some
Where's-
question as to whether we're moving that or rephrasing.
yeah, do we,
Have that as, the question is, do we want to change it to say what works
I think
well?
the first part of 14 is our first question in part 3.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And what is not, what do we decide?
And what
What
could,
needs
what could you,
improvement?
we said, and we made our last question, what could use improvement? Do
Right.
we have any
Yeah.
suggestions for
Right,
improvements?
so, okay, so.
But we're gonna move that to the end.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all right. 15, we revised.
Yeah.
16, how often does your board meet?
Yeah, we have that.
Yeah, we did that one, and then we added, is that sufficient?
Yeah.
Something along those lines. 17 we addressed, 18 we addressed.
Yep.
19, 20.
Yes, we
part
have
two,
19,
yep.
20, and 21, and 22 were all part of this.
23 we struck, 24 we revised significantly, 25 we struck, 26 we struck,
27 was edited.
27 was edited, 28 was
Was-
edited.
We added an E.
Yeah, we added an E.
That was an other.
Do we want to add a budgeting line item, another complication to that? So it's A, B, C, D, E, and F.
Also, you actually put in budgeting.
Yeah.
What was
Okay.
E? What did you put as
E was gonna be other, but now we're.
Because we
thinking
wanted
maybe
to add it
adding
to
a
100%, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So let me just find where that belongs here.
That's in part,
Got it.
yeah.
28.
Um, 29, we revised, or we strike that?
I think we struck it. I haven't crossed out.
To go back to 28 quickly, we could ask them how much time they spend planning.
I think that's in there, long-term planning?
Is it in there?
Yeah, we struck it.
It's in part B.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Where were we? So
29
29 we
we
struck,
struck,
30 we edited,
Edited.
31 we edited, 32 we
We
revised.
combined 32 and 33.
Right, and 33 is correct.
And then.
We haven't talked.
We haven't talked about any of 34 through 39.
Well, I would say this, let's put a pin in 34 through 39, because we're gonna have to meet with the Board of Selectmen, I mean, this affects them the most. And so I would say that when we talk to the selectmen, we refine those questions then, and we have the same list for everybody, so we can compile that information at once, but we're gonna have to revisit 34 through 39 in some form, and probably have another list. Anyone have any other thoughts or discussion about any of the questions, or? I'll put it on the agenda for our next meeting.
This is
Right,
great.
clean up form.
We'll have a clean list will
Yeah.
help us.
Right.
Yeah, and I'll circulate that as soon as I can, so you can,
And Roberta,
mull it over
Thank you
things.
for your
Yeah,
work,
thanks.
you really helped.
Thank you,
here.
Roberta.
Thank you.
Agree. You might have saved this a month.
I don't know about that, but.
3 and 4 moving on the agenda, 3 and 4 are pretty much the same.
Yeah.
5, correspondence materials, didn't receive
These
any.
questions, yeah.
Upcoming meeting schedule, so 2 weeks puts us on the 20th, the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. Everyone good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Everyone still good with 7:30?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do you wanna go into December?
Well, let's see, let me look at the calendar. I prefer not to meet the week before Christmas if possible.
Yeah.
Actually,
That would be kind
or
of.
the week of Christmas if possible.
Christmas is a Tuesday.
Yes.
Yeah, there
Well,
you
that
go.
means we get Christmas and New Year's off.
So if we meet every other week, if we keep this schedule, that means we meet the 20th, the 4th, and the 18th. I can do the 18th if people want to meet on the 18th.
Well, we wouldn't be meeting until
Yeah,
January 8th.
I think that's right, because New Year's Day is the 1st, so
Right.
I think maybe we want to meet,
So what are those dates again? I
So if we do the
can't
4th, the 18th,
so November 20th, December 4th, December 18th,
and possibly January 8th. or
and
just-
probably January 8th, yeah.
And January 8th.
Does that sound good for now?
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
All right, so, I did get one correspondence from Kelly. She is trying to get us on the Board of Selectmen agenda to come and give an update of where we are as a committee. And I told her we are not very far along in the process, but I'd be happy to go
I
talk
think,
to
I
the
think,
board.
I think a clean list of questions is gonna be
Yeah. There'll be
progress, that's,
Okay.
that's impressive.
So she basically got an email that said, do you wanna go before the board on the 19th
No,
or of November, or December 3rd?
November 2019, we will be there.
Okay. Well, she, let me put it this way, she asked if I would attend, and of course, you are also all welcome to attend, but you do not have to. So, and I don't even know that I can make it on the 19th or the 3rd myself yet, so. But I did get that correspondence, and I wanted to extend that invitation to you all if you wanted to go.
why did they wanna see us?
They, all I got was they wanted to know how it's progressing, so,
it's a reasonable request.
I mean, we serve it,
request, but I don't know why we're asking already.
we've
Okay,
got,
that's fine, that's reasonable.
I think it's probably because you've been here watching us and know that we're just really still getting this thing underway, and I don't know what I would be able to tell them, I really don't, so.
Yeah, this is your third meeting,
Third
right?
meeting, that's
Yeah,
right.
you met for about a month now.
Yeah.
We can send them the tape.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
by the time we meet,
The
we can tell
Sominex
them we've
doesn't
got a
kick
list
in.
of questions, we have we're in the process of setting up interviews.
This is the game plan,
Yeah.
I think that's what the meeting is,
Yeah.
and I think it helps to show that we are getting something done, and maybe some momentum.
So if you decide you will go on either of those dates, could you let us know?
I will
by email?
absolutely let you know,
Yeah.
Thank
and
you.
you're all invited to attend,
I may, because I'm,
unless you want me to choose a date where you're not available.
But this would be at one of the Board of Selectmen meetings.
Monday.
Yes.
Yeah.
On Monday night.
That doesn't interfere with the finance.
No, I will
committee.
interfere with the finance committee, so I'll probably pop out of the finance committee meeting for a couple of
Gotcha.
minutes.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Lou, could I have a couple of quick thoughts?
Oh, sorry.
I get a fragmented hard drive. If I don't get them out now, they're gonna get lost here. From my experience, I think you wanna go out and test this list of questions. My suggestion would be 2 secondary committees with 2 different people. And you can do that quickly.
We can't do multiple people, like subcommittees without doing it in a
No.
public meeting.
No,
2 different people with 2 different commissions.
two different interviewers and two
Oh,
different
so-
interviewees.
Because
So
I've,
say
I've tried to
Roberta
do
does-
this myself in the past, and
Yeah.
I find, boy, I changed the questions, and
Yeah.
based on the response, they didn't get it, I had to explain it, or,
So,
damn, I missed this point.
I think there's some merit to doing a
You
test
can do
run,
it quick.
doing a test run with 1 or 2 people and seeing how the questions go
Right,
over and
but
see
if
if they're
2 of you
effective.
did it, I think you'd have some different perceptions.
Right, but I don't know if a chair is gonna wanna do it twice, and maybe they will.
No, that's why I suggested maybe a secondary elected commission.
Well, we also are, I think, we're planning to, I'm hoping to have people come to some of our meetings and discuss it with the full board on the record. But that may be a different set of questions.
Another observation, changing subject, what Roberta mentioned in the beginning, is you start to talk and, you know, get more relaxed.
Yeah.
One of the things you could say, I think it's very helpful to do your homework, find out how many people on the commission, a
Right.
few basic facts,
Yeah.
but turn that around and say, just to confirm my understanding of your commission,
You have this many members.
you have this many people, blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah,
this
blah,
is your
blah.
mission.
It's more of just a verbal
a
technique,
good idea.
I find works very well. I don't know if the organization structure, the current one, you got it yet?
Oh, no, we don't have a draft organizational chart. We started one with Roberta's help, but we don't.
Oh,
we
okay,
haven't-
because I thought that was coming from
We
town.
haven't
hall.
finalized that yet.
Sorry.
Any,
One point at the end, I was listening carefully to, off the record. And one of the techniques you can do when you say that is actually just close your notepad
Yeah,
Oh,
and say, I won't
Like
take any
this?
note. But the physical, yeah.
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
just
that's a good idea,
a technique to show them you're serious,
Yeah,
and look,
it
I'm not
de-escalates
recording this,
stuff.
it's off the record if you had anything else you
Yeah.
wanted to share. That's enough.
okay.
I second Dave's
We have a
motion.
motion, yeah,
Second
second.
Dave's motion to adjourn.
There's usually not any discussion, but discussion,
Nice job.
5-0.
Looking forward to the questions.
Ayes have it.
Yeah.
I